I never expected to plant a church specifically in Hawaii. My burden was for the military. People in the military are most open to the change the gospel brings. And Pastor Al Anger was one of the best working with local churches with military here in Hawaii. He invited us to come out to Hawaii to work with him over a summer program for 6 weeks. We did not expect to come back to Hawaii after that summer, but Pastor Anger and I hit it off very well, and he asked me if I would come back and be his assistant pastor at the church there. I got to learn under Pastor Anger. It was my OJT. I got to make all the mistakes, and he had to clean up all my messes. We loved the ministry at Kolau, but we knew that God wanted us to plant a church someday. And after 5 years, God began moving us in that direction. And so we arranged to go back to the mainland to raise support. We spent about a year traveling. We came back and started Ohana in the summer of 1986. We started our first services with 15 people. The very first service, I forgot my sermon notes and had to go back and get them, but it was a good beginning and a good opportunity. Our biggest problem in the first year was finding a place to meet. We started out in an office, actually a classroom for Roosevelt University that was part of an office building, and they found out 1 month later they weren't supposed to sublease to us. And so we got a call Monday that we could not come back the next Sunday. And so we had to scramble to find a place to meet. We got a school that agreed to let us rent month by month, which makes it very difficult for planting a church. When you go on visitation, you say, I want you to come to church, I just don't know where we're going to be. We actually were in 6 different locations in our first year and a half. We had met for a number of years in the cafeteria at Makalapa Elementary School, and it was a great opportunity, but it became clear that we needed our own building. So we began looking around for possible locations and places to rent, and it was very discouraging because a lot of no's and a lot of prices way outside of our range. I looked at one location that they wanted $33,000 a month after we paid $100,000 deposit, and it was way beyond what we could afford. But one of the ladies in our church, who was a great prayer warrior, came to me and she said, Pastor, what about this location? And it was the one I'd looked at. And I told her how much it was, and her eyes got real big, and she said, let me pray about it. And she went back and prayed about it. She came back and she said, I really believe the Lord wants us to have that building. And so I went back to the people that owned the property, and they said, well, there's 3 buildings on the property. You can rent one of them, and this is the one that had the fire in it. And if you will take this building and as is and renovate yourself, we'll give you 2 years free rent, and then we'll rent it to you for $10,000 a month with an increase every year. God provided in so many ways through companies going out of business and donations and different projects that we were able to get a hold of material from. Well, it's very clear that the Lord has always provided. I'm a go-getter. I like to make things happen. And I found that after a while I had to realize that I couldn't make it happen, that God had to make it happen. And so many times I went out and worked very, very hard to make something come about, whether it was renting a building or whatever else it might be, and got very frustrated. And then I just had to step back and say, Lord, you're going to have to do this. And it was just amazing how He provided. My burden when we came here to Hawaii is work with the military, and that's still my burden today. I think the military is a great opportunity to reach folks for Christ. But gradually, God gave me a love for the local people as well. And so we began expanding our ministries to different groups within Hawaii. Right now, we have 30 different nationalities in the church. And with each group, we would bring in somebody new, whether it was Filipino or Samoan or Korean or Japanese or Hawaiian or whatever group it might be. And so now the church has grown to where it's about half military and half local population. There was different opposition at different times. After we moved into the location, the old bowling alley location, 2 years later, the property owner sold it to another group, and they established next door a motorcycle shop. The manager's license plate, personalized license plate, was pure evil, and she was. They did everything they could to oppose us in the time that we were there. They would have motorcycle rallies on Sunday morning with over 1,000 in attendance and not tell us about it. So we had to cancel classes because of the noise from the motorcycles. We had a situation where they had a rally on a Saturday, and I went down to my office to pick something up, and they were having a bikini contest, and all the contestants were standing on our front porch. And so this is the kind of thing that we had to put up with. In 2007, the owners came to us and said, "We want you to move out." We began looking for a new location and could not find anything. It was a 3-year process of trying to look for a new location. We had to get extended at least once during that time period. And we were down to less than 6 months left in that building, and we still had not found a location. And every time I thought it was the right location and the right opportunity, the Lord shut the doors. In fact, we were within 24 hours of closing on one building, and the Lord slammed that door shut. And so I was at a point that I was discouraged. In fact, I was mad at God. I got on my knees and said, "Lord, what are you doing? I came here to start a church. You've given us a group of people, and now you won't give us a location. It's your church. You're going to have to do something." And God said, "All right, now I'm ready to do something." And I just had to step back and let God do it. And so my realtor called me up the next day and said, "I have some property for you to look at." He told me the location. I said, "That probably won't work." I said, "I don't even want to look at it." And then he called me again the next day and said, "Please come look at it." Came down and looked at this property, and it turned out to be a great location with a great opportunity. We ended up being able to buy $3.5 to $4 million worth of buildings for $665,000. We don't own the land, it's leasehold land, and the lease on the building is about $16,000 a month, and that's about what we were paying rent at our old location. But we also have to pay a $6,600 a month mortgage fee. We hope to have that paid off this year. So in total, we're paying more, but the building next door, they pay us rent. And so we get $10,000 a month rent from them, and we also get $80 a month for every one of our parking spaces during the week, and that adds up to about $2,000. So in the aggregate, we're paying less for this building than we did our old building. And so the Lord clearly gave us these buildings.
Many people say you've done a wonderful work over there in Hawaii, but the truth is we've done nothing. All we've done is be where God's called us to be, doing what God's called us to do. And we've had the privilege of watching God do something special. God has provided the people, God has provided the finances, God has provided everything. And what I want to encourage people to realize as they look at our lives, it's not how great you are, but it's how great your God is. And God has done a great work here. He's done some amazing things. And if we hadn't come, we'd have never seen it. And so being here is what's most important. And so being where God wants you to be, you'll see God do something special. And if you're not there, somebody else gets to watch it instead of you.